This is the accusation. They're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact in the election.
We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history.
But yet promoted this idea.
James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years.
And then there's been some incredible clips of all these different news reporters, CNN and MSNBC, just saying over and over and over again, clear evidence of Russian collusion.
For 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency.
And somehow, the criticism lands on Donald J. Trump instead of Barack Obama or George W. Bush. If you really want to talk about a lack of transparency, look at the administrations that protected Jeffrey Epstein, buried the case for 2 decades, and dodged accountability. When the polished image of a former president collides with blunt, unfiltered truth, the cracks don't just show, they split wide open. Joe Rogan strikes with sniper-like precision and the force of a wrecking ball, while JD Vance delivers sharp jabs that cut through the spin. What begins as a roast quickly turns into a full-scale demolition, peeling away the carefully curated legacy to expose the uncomfortable reality beneath.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-penned.
You know, first of all, I don't believe, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, whether you agree with Donald Trump or disagree with him, I don't believe in hectoring voters. I believe in persuading voters. Your support is not something I'm given or something I'm owed. It's something you got to go out there and work for. So one, I just don't like the tone of going in. I mean, look, the better question for Barack Obama or anybody to ask is not why black men, it's not how dare you not vote for Kamala Harris.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. The takedown kicks off the way all legendary demolitions do, by exposing what fans refuse to acknowledge. The polished image, the silky speeches, the dramatic pauses that made half the country swoon like they were listening to poetry instead of politics. Rogan tears through that facade like flimsy drywall, pointing out how Obama perfected the art of looking busy while accomplishing less than a DMV clerk on a Friday afternoon. He paints the former president as a salesman of hope, one who could deliver soaring words on camera but needed a teleprompter, a team of writers, and a forgiving audience to cover for 8 years of mixed results.
No. He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
it's
that.
It's 100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him.
According to Rogan, Obama's true legacy wasn't transformation. It was branding brilliance. He was a masterclass in self-marketing, convincing people that half-steps were bold leaps and foreign policy failures were strategic genius. Rogan mocks a glorification of the Affordable Care Act, reminding listeners that it was riddled with loopholes, skyrocketing costs, and broken promises, collapsing faster than a startup that never makes it past launch. To Rogan, Obama wasn't a trailblazer. He was a salesman who got everyone to buy a product with hidden fees.
best people age the hardest. I think Obama was probably like a very idealistic young man
Oh, Lord, what's going on now? Who's hollering? I can't even see it.
who really wanted to change the world. And that dude aged more than anybody.
I mean, I'm getting old, so I can't hear that well. I can't see that good.
Who aged the
see it.
least? Trump.
Trump.
Trump just
This is something that
he just brushed that shit off his shoulders like it was nothing.
We knock on wood wherever we may have wood that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the
Rogan takes aim at the obsession with image, laughing at how a tan suit dominated headlines for a week under Obama. Not because it mattered, but because the media was eager to swoon instead of asking why wars dragged on years after he promised to end them. He could order a drone strike on a wedding overseas and still land a Vogue cover a month later. Rogan skewers the absurdity. If style point were all that mattered, Obama would have been president for life. But in the real world, style doesn't rebuild cities, pay bills, or fix broken systems.
Town of backstabbing that's going on.
That's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies.
Like when she got into office, you realize like you're not really in control of everything because there's another person who's in control of each individual department, and they'll stop whatever you're trying to do every step of the way. They get in the way of everything. What are you going to do? You're going to replace everything?
Just when the roast hits its peak, JD Vance steps in with the first of 3 precise strikes. He targets Obama's supposed connection to the working class, shredding the myth that he was ever one of them. Vance highlights how Obama loved to talk about middle America, but treated it more as a campaign backdrop than priority. Under his watch, Rust Belt jobs didn't return. They disappeared faster, replaced by speeches about the inevitability of globalization. It's a surgical takedown that makes Obama's Midwestern photo ops look like little more than staged political theater.
During this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter. And
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him before?
I did just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're going to do something and then you get into office and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about...
Rogan jumps back in, mocking Obama as the Democrats' top salesman of moral high ground. He points out the irony. A man preaching transparency while running one of the most secretive administrations in decades. From the DOJ cracking down on whistleblowers to cozy ties with Silicon Valley, Rogan argues Obama didn't just play the political game. He rewrote the playbook on hiding the ball while looking noble. The roast heats up when Rogan compares Obama's Nobel Peace Prize to handing out a championship trophy before the season even starts. Once in office, peace seems secondary to preserving the status quo. Rogan won't let nostalgia cloud the picture. The post-presidency Obama lounging on yachts, signing Netflix deals, and cashing 6-figure corporate speeches from the same companies he once promised to hold accountable. The hypocrisy writes itself, and Rogan milks every drop, calling it the most lucrative retirement plan ever invented by a man who claimed to hate corporate greed. This punch doesn't just sting. It lingers.
Things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president. Then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination.
JD Vance takes his second swing, targeting Obama's mastery of racial politics. Not as a barrier breaker, but as someone who used identity as a shield from criticism. Vance argues Obama's biggest racial achievement wasn't progress, but convincing supporters that disagreement equaled moral failure. Meanwhile, real policies that could have closed wealth gaps or reformed broken systems got pushed aside for speeches about unity. Vance cuts deep into the contradiction. showing how the image of a unifier often masked the reality of a divider when it came to political tactics.
I'll say just a couple of things. First of all, the president has been very clear. We're not shielding anything. The president has directed the attorney general to release all credible information and, frankly, to go and find additional credible information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's been incredibly transparent about that stuff, but some of that stuff takes time. You've got to assemble that stuff. You've got to compile that.
Rogan seizes a moment to drag Obama's foreign policy under the spotlight. He dismantles a no-drama Obama myth by pointing to the chaos in Libya, the endless mess in Afghanistan, and the infamous red line in Syria, drawn, erased, and redrawn so often it looked like a bad Etch-a-Sketch. Rogan hammers a point. Obama could talk like a statesman, but his global decisions left allies confused and enemies emboldened. That wasn't leadership. It was cautious calculation wrapped in elegant speeches.
Obama did it, and it's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. Let's play it.
Said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
See, that's crazy. I have never seen that last part of it
because the news has said that lie over and over and over and over.
Rose gets personal when Rogan mocks the cult-like devotion Obama still enjoys in certain circles. He laughs at how some treat him like a retired superhero waiting to swoop back in, ignoring that today's mess traces back to his policies. Rogan compares it to blaming the current homeowner for bad wiring while ignoring the last guy who installed it. Then Vance delivers his final blow, tying Obama to the Democratic Party's modern identity crisis. Obama's style over substance approach. Vance argues, train a generation of politicians to prioritize branding over results. Politics turned into an Instagram feed where likes matter more than legislation. It's not just about what Obama did or didn't do. It's how his playbook created a party obsessed with optics, but out of touch with reality.
Candid conversations with Tulsi Gabbard about what it was like.
It's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal.
She's a person, tries to be friends with everybody, tries to reach across the aisle. She's got that whole aloha spirit.
The answer to that statement can very clearly be found throughout all of the documents that we have released, showing that Russia has took action to try to sow discord in the election, but showed no preference for or against.
Rogan closes with a knockout, stitching every critique into one brutal conclusion. He paints Obama as the ultimate illusionist, distracting crowds with charisma while little got done behind the curtain. It wasn't hope and change. It was hope as a brand, change as a buzzword. Obama could convince half the country the scoreboard was broken even as the other side racked up points. In Rogan's telling, he's not a tragic hero or a villain. He's a cautionary tale of what happens when a nation confuses presentation for performance. Every careful pause, every polished slogan, every photo-ready smile was part of a bigger trick that left voters with warm feelings but no results. And in Rogan and Vance's world, that's the most devastating punchline of all. Obama's brand wasn't built on brilliance, but on
the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
The thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
When he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise. Gold sneakers, $100,000 watch. Why are you selling the watch? What are you doing?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. We've gotten numb to all this.
Rogan's takedown of Obama's so-called political instincts was almost surgical. He didn't just highlight mistakes. He exposed the calculated dodges. The grand promises tossed into the wind, only to be quietly abandoned when it came time to deliver. To Rogan, this wasn't leadership. It was performance art, where applause mattered more than results. Every replay of Obama's self-congratulatory moments landed like a joke no one wanted to laugh at. Because the punchline was on the country. When JD Vance re-entered, he didn't need to go broad. He locked onto Obama's claim of middle-class revitalization and tore it down brick by brick. The numbers didn't show a savior of working families. They showed a cosmetic paint job on a collapsing foundation. Manufacturing jobs never came back. Wages never soared. But the speeches? Those only got flashier. Vance's message was brutal and clear. For all of Obama's soaring talk of hope, too many communities were left with nothing.
Remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this. And then they it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect Libyan civilians.
Rogan grabbed that thread and ran with it, mocking how Obama's post-presidency turned into the very corporate elite lifestyle he once claimed to resist. Netflix contracts, million-dollar book tours, sprawling estates. Every perk of the global elite wrapped in the same charm that once won him votes. Rogan framed him not as a retired leader, but as a rebranded mogul, turning politics into a billion-dollar industry, while loyal fans still defended him like he was in the trenches fighting for them. The roast worked because it wasn't bitter. It was mocking. Every contradiction Rogan exposed came with sarcastic disbelief, making you wonder how so many missed it for so long. The healthcare rollout fiasco? He spun it into a skit about the great communicator who couldn't even communicate with his own website. The foreign policy blunders? They became bits about a man who seemed to think a Nobel Peace Prize was a license to do whatever he pleased. Then came Vance's final hammer blow. The Obama years were the golden age. They were the warm-up act for political chaos that followed. Without the gulf between promises and delivery, without optimism curdling into cynicism, the landscape might never have shifted so sharply. Rogan grinned as he pushed the point further. Obama wasn't a victim of the times, but an architect of the frustration that reshaped American politics. By the end, Obama's carefully guarded image wasn't just cracked. It was in ruins. The man once thought untouchable in public opinion lost the magic, the mystique, and the myth. What remained wasn't the legend of a transformative leader, but the reality of a politician who sold millions on the illusion that style was substance and speeches were results.